Hello, everyone, and welcome to the DAIAA General Meeting number 13. Today is February the 2nd, 2026, and a warm welcome to you all. Let's do a recap of what we're here for: to foster the development and proliferation of decentralized AI agents through education, activism, research, and events. And so just the agenda for today. Any new members here, we'll just ask them to put their hand up and introduce themselves. If there are any updates on the subgroups, I'll call for those. And then we're very privileged to have Chris here to discuss some fascinating research with us and insights. And then afterwards, we'll have an open discussion. So are there any new members, members or people that have not? Please open your mic and let us know who you are and what your mission is.
I actually just asked if I could share this link with a colleague of mine. I put it in the chat. He just completed an AI certification course, and I would like to get more connected with people in this space, but I didn't want to just jump on that. Is it all right if I share this link?
You're welcome. Continue, why not? Thank you for doing that.
Okay,
Spread the word, spread the gospel.
thank you. All right, so my friend Louis Keelis should be joining shortly. Thank you.
Great.
Okay.
William,
Got some hands up there, Robin.
great. Can you, I can't see them.
Okay,
Yep.
Sarah?
I'll
Hi there. Sarah Emvine, Lou Kerner invited me. I'm a longtime consumer entrepreneur, Silicon Valley and Yahoo 20 years ago, now building DearSarah.ai, which is a consumer application, feminine approach to AI. If you can imagine Grok versus Dear Sarah, that's what we are. Human-centered design around women.
Fantastic.
Nice
Thank
to
you,
meet
Sarah.
you all.
Great, thank you. William?
Hi there. Yeah, I joined I think in December. Sadly, I missed January's call, but yeah, excited to be here now. I'm the CTO for Kaiko Studios, and we build an emotional intelligence AI layer that can sit on top of any LLM, as well as we were building our own SLM model for each industry specific, so you can have much more comprehensive responses and a non-agreeable type model that will always try to satisfy your requests.
Great, thank you. John?
Guys, I've been on before, but I haven't been on in a while. I'm John Sarson. We're a VC focused on blockchain and AI, so I'd like to come and hear what you guys are working on.
Great,
Thanks,
good to see you
John.
again.
John's
Okay.
a long-term friend of ours. He's been around for ages, funded a number of the ventures. So yeah, warm welcome to you, John. Thank you for all the
Thanks,
support
yeah.
of our
I
Crypto
love hearing what
Mondays
you
and
guys are up to here. We gotta help coordinate the industry around getting funding and getting some of these ideas, you know, competing against what we're getting from big tech. So you guys are all freedom fighters in our book at Sarson Funds.
Brilliant. Brilliant. Thank you. Thanks, Alan, for the help with that. Subgroup updates. I see Eric here. What did we chat about on the last agentic commerce update?
We were just talking in general about sort of the state of the economy and AI's impact, but I think that obviously what's happening with OpenClaw or Moltbot or Claudebot is certainly one of the most astounding things we're seeing in all aspects of agents, including agentic commerce. So that's what we'll be diving into on this week's call on Wednesday.
Brilliant. Brilliant. Thanks, Eric. Any other subgroup members here that want to do an update? Going once, going twice. Right.
Sorry, Eric. I'm sorry,
Oh,
Robin Delay here. Sorry, I was on mute.
Dele, welcome, dude.
Hi, guys, and I'm driving at the moment, so bear with me, please. But yeah, no, just wanted to kind of give an update on the data ownership subgroup. We've been really just hammering in on really building. So a lot of offline conversations really around just the whole ownership space period. And we've been really busy building like our Bitcoin anchored framework for that. So lots going on. Been doing a lot, yeah, lots going on. Not a huge amount of updates from the subgroup perspective at the moment, though. It seems everyone's been deeply in build mode. But I imagine we're gonna, after Denver, looks like we're gonna try and get together again and give a general update overall on what's happening across the ecosystem.
Wonderful. Thanks, Della. Much appreciated.
There's one more hand up, Robin, from
Good
Roger.
one. Thank you. Roger?
Yeah, hi, good morning, Rod. Yeah, Roger Jackson. I'm in Los Angeles, driving right now, so no video. Real quickly, I joined in December, but I missed January as well. I run a AI training data brokerage called Video for AI. So, bit of a sort of oblique connection to this group, but super interesting to me. But basically, I have a massive 10 million plus hour catalog of all types of video data sets that I license to most of the big LLMs, and so keeping a finger on the pulse that you guys have. That's it.
Great. Thank you very much, Roger.
One more hand from Balas.
Yes, sorry, I was a little late to join. My name is Balázs. We are a new member as well. I represent the agent community, which is basically working on open specs for interop between agents, which just became a lot more important. And the main goal of the community is to acquire the .agent top level domain in a community application. So it becomes like governed by a community instead of owned by OpenAI or any of the big players in the space. So kind of like keeping the property in community governed hands. So yeah, you can learn more at agentcommunity.org.
Awesome, Balázs. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
One more with Steve.
Hi, this is Steve Massour. I just wanted to sort of reconnect with everybody. I've been gone for a while. I'm an attorney in the technology space. I run the tech practice for Rains Feldman Luttrell, and I'm always happy to answer questions or get involved in the community.
Thanks, Steve. Steve's also a long-time member of Crypto Mondays and founding member of DAIAA. So welcome back, Steve.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
I'm just old. Just
Always
old
good,
and
always good
broken.
to have a
Old and
legal,
broken.
always good to have a legal in the room, you know? Yeah. Thanks so much. Okay, so I think we can
Oh,
get
one
cracking now
more.
then.
Sorry, Robin.
So
One
a
more
very
with
warm
Lewis.
welcome. Sorry. Let's go back.
And then we should move on
Luis?
to presentation.
Yes.
Hey,
Last
hey
chance.
everyone. I just got invited here. My name is Lewis, based out of New York City. I'm a life and business coach. Just got certified in AI integration for business. And I'm looking to dive deeper into learning and development with AI integration. So happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Brilliant. Thank you, Luis. And yes, right, let's go. A warm welcome to Chris Davis of Messari. Decentralized AI, as we know, is evolving very rapidly, and the mission of this is to help our members to navigate these changes. And yeah, we're very honored to have Chris here. He's enterprise research analyst at Messari, and is co-author of the Messari's landmark 89-page State of AI report. So over to you, Chris. Thanks so much for being here and to help us understand where we are going with this industry.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you guys so much for having me. So yeah, I'll start sharing my screen and we can get into it. Oh, oops, it looks like I have to, sorry, get my preferences right here. Sorry, guys, just 1 minute.
No problem. Feel free to chime in, anybody that's got something on their mind.
Okay, I think we are finally good.
Oh, there we go. Well done,
Okay.
Charlotte.
Yes, a very tech forward start to all of this. All right, let's get this out of here.
You almost had to call in some resources there, huh?
I know,
Call
right?
in your wife to help you sort her computer out.
Exactly. Okay, so let's do this. Can everyone see this all right?
It's coming.
Loading.
There we go. We're in
Okay,
business.
great. Amazing. So, yeah, again, thank you so much for having me here. I'm really excited to present some of this. I think to some of you guys, this might be kind of like information you already know, but hopefully I can reframe it in a way that is a little bit kind of caught up with some of the things that I've been seeing in the broader economy. So the name of the presentation is The Agents Are Here. And I want to start off a little bit with kind of where we were at before. So I'm sure that some of you guys know or remember the Q4 2024 Agent Mania. We had agent frameworks like Virtuals, AI16Z, and it kind of all started with Truth Terminal, which was this kind of chatbot that was on Twitter and ended up getting funded by Mark Andreessen with I think like $50,000, and everyone this kind of caught fire almost in the same way that like Moltbook has been catching fire now. Took Twitter by storm, and this led us to many questionable conclusions. So first off, it seemed that Truth Terminal was AGI to most people. Agent frameworks were the next L1 trade. So, people were talking about ARC, they were talking about virtuals, they were talking about AI16Z in the same light as the 2021 AVAX, Solana, Luna trade. And then agents will manage all of my assets and trade for me and make me super rich. Zero Bro is the next Kendrick Lamar, an incredible album. And then we saw really prices go absolutely ballistic. So virtual soared 100x within 90 days. Messari came out with this infamous current AI trend mirrors DeFi 2020 to 2021 growth, which we had come to regret afterwards. So that was a prediction, I believe, at the end of December. So, okay, so inflated expectations, obviously, the bubble burst, the market tanked in January, and we discovered that Truth Terminal is not, in fact, AGI. A lot of these agent frameworks dropped 90, some of them 99%. Virtuals was deemed a meme coin launchpad. Zero Bro, his album was no longer good, and a ton of opportunistic projects shut down. So what we have here, obviously, one of my favorite charts is kind of like the Gartner hype cycle. I think we were in the peak of inflated expectations, all the way down to the trough of disillusionment. And then from my perspective, we're just starting to climb up the slope of enlightenment. I think one of the things that really was challenging for people back then and maybe led to these inflated expectations or kind of like a disconnect with the market and reality was a lot of people didn't really understand what an agent was. And I think, quite frankly, a lot of people still don't really understand what an agent is unless you're deep in the space. I talked to some of my friends who are, like at hedge funds, traditional VCs, and aren't super deep into AI. And they're saying, oh, it's a lot of talk and a lot of, companies coming to CEOs and saying, we're going to do all this agentic stuff. And then it kind of fizzles out. And there's a lot of grift with it. So I just wanted to cover this. So Anthropic's definition is agents are typically just an LLM using tools based on environmental feedback in a loop. So agents work on a continuous thinking cycle, which is thought. So thinks, breaks things down, reasons through things. Action, the agent takes action by calling tools with associated arguments. observation, the model can reflect on the responses of these tools, and then that can go into a loop when it has to think more, maybe take more actions, have more observations, until eventually there's a stop and it is presented to the user. And common tools are search, image gen, retrieval, an API interface. But these are quite different from like the modern agents that I think we're seeing right now. So your Claude Code, your Manus, and they're much more capable of handling long, complex tasks, like some people call them long horizon tasks. And I think in addition to obviously a lot of model improvement over the past year, there's been significant work around the context management and the coordination here. So on the right, we have Langchan's agent harness. So you see like deep agent, it can break things down into sub agents. It has longer term memory, so memory that persists throughout all threads of the conversation, and being able to recall user preferences, past decisions, accumulate context, spawning the sub agents to handle different tasks in parallel, being able to read and write and navigate local files and directories. And so working within an agent's current environment, like, again, we've seen this recently with, everything with the OpenClaw, Moltbot. I think we're seeing people experience this for the first time. And agent skills. So this is, again, like just kind of a way of managing contexts, reusable file system-based resources with specific domain expertise, and model context protocol, which I believe actually dropped in late 2024, but a standard for connecting agents to external tools and data sources without having to do bespoke integrations. Okay, so I believe this is leading us to the agent economy. Over the past year, adoption has really accelerated across a number of consumer and enterprise verticals. So I think coding agents are the most obvious example of this. We've also seen a lot of call agents, different agent use in medical for different applications there, maybe research. And like over here, there's a massive AI agents market map right now that covers a ton of different verticals. So as they become more embedded in the economy, I think there's tasks that they'll handle that involve more economic action. So facilitating commerce, so that's kind of handling the B2B, B2C side of things. Kind of when you think about the discovery process and the purchase process of an app like ChatGPT or Gemini. Resource acquisition, so paying for resources that might enhance their context, refill a request, or extend their capabilities. And this could be premium data feeds, API calls, compute, specialized tools. Providing services, so this gets more into, I guess, like the agent-to-agent commerce, so receiving compensation for services, and participating in markets. So this gets more into the, I guess, Def AI stuff that we'll cover a little bit later on, but performing financial tasks such as trading, yield optimization, portfolio rebalancing. And I think that the B2C commerce opportunity is really the first steps into this. And we're starting to see this come to life more. ChatGPT has integrated instant checkout. Gemini is currently integrating like shopping through the Gemini app as well. And what we're seeing here is that the AI is able to compress the traditional product discovery and purchasing process, and really just take intent and turn it into like an end user purchase. So McKinsey states that by 2030, the US B2C retail economy alone could see $1 trillion in orchestrated revenue from agents. I think they say about 3 to 4 trillion worldwide. And we're starting to see actual adoption of this. Again, it's still really early, but globally, AI and agents influenced 14.2 billion in online sales on Black Friday. So people are clearly shopping through ChatGPT and getting some of their recommendations from ChatGPT and then going to other websites to purchase. And SimilarWeb estimates the conversion rates for visits referred by ChatGPT is 11.4% compared to 5.3% with organic search, and a couple of percentages higher than like paid advertising and direct to consumer. And you can see down here kind of like the general flow of the process in a really simple way. So the user prompts, the agent goes off and searches, the agent has all these different parameters that maybe the user has set for him. The agent provides a list of options. The user says, okay, I want to do this option. It goes back to the merchant. And then there's this entire kind of path that eventually leads to a purchase on the user's behalf. And then maybe the agent monitors certain things like engaging with customer support, initiating returns, scheduling pickups. I think we're still a little bit off from there, but we're in the early phases of this. And of course, like anytime there is a new workflow, you have competing standards, and it's like the meme where, there's 14 competing standards. Someone should, make one that encapsulates all of this, and then there's 15 competing standards. So you have the agentic commerce protocol, and this is all really within the B2C, specifically kind of like user intent flow for like macro purchases, bigger ticket items. So yeah, Stripe and OpenAI released one. Google recently just released a universal commerce protocol. Visa has one, the Trusted Agents Protocol. MasterCard has one, Agent Pay Acceptance Framework. And all of these do roughly the same thing, which is basically, ensuring trust and interoperability between buyers, agents, and businesses. So this is where crypto starts to get into the mix. So I think, for B2C agentic commerce experience, such as booking a flight or ordering skis, like I think cards are fine for this, and they actually do have a lot of merit, right? So you have like fraud, edge cases that you might have to deal with that the credit card company handles for you, chargebacks. And I think it's so embedded within the consumer behavior at this point that it's really hard to break that. However, they're clearly not suited for the type of like robust agentic economy driven by high frequency, low cost transactions that I believe that we are eventually moving to. You can't be paying interchange fees or like a minimum of 30-cent fee on a transaction that might be costing 10 cents. It just makes no sense from a unit economic standpoint. Obviously, agents can't autonomously register for credit cards yet. So there's multiple reasons why it's not the ideal form factor for the economy that we're moving to. And I think the leading fintech and AI companies know this, and they're mobilizing. So on one hand, they're building, Stripe's L1 is designed for agentic payments. They have OpenAI and Anthropic as design partners. Funding, PayPal Ventures has been pretty active in this area. They led Kite AI's 18 million Series A funding. And then collaborating, Google's AP2, which is another standard that ensures more trust and verifiability, includes notable crypto companies such as Coinbase, got Crossmint. I believe there's like 5 or 6 on this little graphic over here. So X402, I'm sure everyone here has heard of X402 by this point. The standard for internet native payments. Again, in case you don't, it's an open source protocol developed by Coinbase that turns the dormant HTTP 402 payment required status into an on-chain payment layer for APIs, websites, autonomous agents, meaning that you do not need to have a subscription. You do not need to have a specific API key. You can hit a server and it will respond back with the payment required. And then you'll be able to select a payment method. So currently, I believe with V2, it supports more than just crypto now. I believe it also supports card payments and ACH. And the 3 key entities here are the client, so the person who initiates the request for the paid resource. And again, this could be humans, this could be agents. The server, the resource provider that enforces the payment to access its services. And then the facilitator, which is a very interesting role, which is a service that basically simplifies the process of verifying and settling payments so that you as a server don't really have to worry about any of that in the background. That's all taken care of you. And so far, X402 has gotten some pretty solid distribution to start with, integrated into Google's AP2, partnered with Cloudflare, integrated into their SDK. And again, it's still developing. V2 was released in December, and I think it solved a lot of the pain points around custom logic with payments, and being able to have like modular payment structures around different blockchains without having to change the underlying spec. So just making it a lot more robust. And I think we'll see more releases in the future come out to basically solve a lot of these pain points that maybe cards did get right, and we need to eventually kind of transition over to the X402 payment stack. So adoption and use cases, this is what I think is really interesting about X402 because everyone's excited about it, right? And we can all see from a crypto perspective that like blockchain rails are the ideal rails for agents. It just makes a lot of sense, like small microtransactions, instant settlement, runs 24/7. But I think when you talk to people outside of crypto, at least people that I've talked to who work in fintech, a lot of them, they're like, well, what are people actually buying with X402, right? Like what are these actual services? You know, it sounds nice in theory, but what's actually underneath all this? So I think, like, although X402 can serve any transaction size, I believe that the micropayments and these smaller payments are the wedge, and like continuous streaming payments are the wedge, which this will start to like integrate into the agentic economy. And then maybe down the road, the B2C opportunity can be tackled later on. So valuable data, to me, this is one of the most compelling use cases, if not the most compelling use case. Because I think, like, what we've been learning with agents is like context really, really, really matters. And what we've seen recently between Manus and SimilarWeb is a really good indication of what this could potentially look like. So Manus did a partnership with SimilarWeb for their data. I think you get free SimilarWeb data when you get Manus. And if you look at SimilarWeb's actual subscription, it's pretty expensive. I think it's like around $120 per month is the cheapest one. But that's really valuable data, right? And you can think of a lot of other sources, so maybe Statista, right? That there's really valuable service that would give your agent a lot more context and lead to better answers, better responses. But you might not want to pay, or you might not be able to afford a full subscription. You know, if some of these companies see that this is a way to monetize as well, or if things are shifting in this direction, maybe they'll integrate an X402 endpoint. And that could be really valuable data. Inference, so access to frontier LLMs. You know, you might be, say, you're just like running a open source model locally that might not be the best model. Maybe you can access a frontier LLM, hit an API call, and just get inference from there instead of actually subscribing to it or using that model. And then also domain-specific models. I think this is interesting. I'm not sure how much we've seen in terms of X402 with this yet, but you can imagine in the future where you have models that are really bespoke to certain industries, or some sort of expertise that would be valuable to acquire that information in certain circumstances. Compute, so access to GPUs or servers. I think that's pretty self-explanatory. And then agentic services. So this is where it gets into the real A to A stuff. So paying for specialized tasks, maybe that's like code review, data validation, content moderation. There's a ton of services that can come from that. And if we look at this graph down here, I mean, what I want to kind of emphasize with this is it looks very much down and to the right, and it is, but this isn't necessarily a bad thing, because I think, again, with that like microservice use case as the initial wedge, you kind of want to see the value of the transactions dropping a little bit. So you want to see like 10-cent transactions, right? 20-cent transactions, maybe 1-cent transactions, versus some of the larger transactions that we saw in the beginning, where some of the activity was influenced by like meme coin mints, right? So you could go and mint something through an X402 server, say I'm going to pay X amount for 300 tokens and get that back. There was a lot of activity kind of in that earlier period of November and October that was not really like around the use cases that we want to see and that we actually think will be best served by X402. And then ERC 8004, again, I'm sure a lot of people here know about this, but it's a standard that extends Google's agent-to-agent protocol and adds a layer of on-chain identity, reputation, and verifiability. So this is kind of like a immutable directory for agents. So if you have a truly agent-to-agent economy, how do you know which agent is trustworthy? How do you even find all of these agents, right, that just might be out there like running on Mac Mini somewhere? And how can you validate that they're actually trustworthy? So this is like a first attempt at this, and I think it's a pretty good attempt. I think, to me, the most compelling part of this is actually the directory part of it. So being able to find and identify agents, and allowing your agent, if it's acting autonomously and needs to find another agent, to easily be able to do that through obviously some sort of system. The reputation registry, I know there's been some questions about that. Reputation is really hard to nail down. So I think there's still some work being done in that area. And there's some other companies, there's other ways of doing reputation. For example, you could take a Darwinian approach like Recall, where you have tournaments around a specific use case, and then agents that rank the highest are like kind of ranked within a skill market. So there's other ways of doing this aside from this standard. But this is generally what this is trying to tackle. And it was recently actually pushed to mainnet. So we talked a lot about like the commerce opportunity, whether that's smaller A2A commerce, kind of like acquiring resources, or whether the B2C commerce, which I think is kind of like this first initial wedge that's going to push us towards the agent economy. And this has more to do now. The Def AI thing is more what's AI agents' impact on crypto and when they start interacting with markets. So agents are fundamentally changing the DeFi user experience. And this is something when, we had that first run up in Q4 24, I think a lot of these were promised to us, but weren't fulfilled yet. I think we're actually starting to see some fulfillment of this. So yield optimization uses AI models to dynamically allocate capital. So we're seeing Giza, I believe they have around 40 million in assets under agents. So currently being shifted around and optimized for returns. I know they've been growing like crazy over the past year. Trading and betting, so automating trade execution. I'm not sure if any of you guys have used Banker, but you can just tell him, hey, Banker, switch my ETH into this call on a prediction market when it hits this amount of money, and you can do pretty complex flows through there. And market analytics, which is something I'm very excited about. True North, Surf AI, they both raised pretty recently, and they provide on-chain intelligence. So model-driven analytics based on a ton of on-chain and off-chain sources of information. So kind of acting as a co-pilot throughout your DeFi journey. And then financial assistance. So this is from one of the holy grails that people see is like full, management of portfolio, execution of trades, and interpreting everything. So the way that I see this market structure playing out, I think it's very, very early in this, is you can have a vertical integration. So to me, the best positioned protocols to do this are the research ones. So you imagine Surf AI or True North integrate execution and yield management at the same time as being your kind of co-pilot throughout your crypto journey. I think this can provide a really powerful data flywheel that kind of can make the product indispensable to users when it fuels enough. So you get to know a user, you get to know their off-chain behavior as well as their on-chain behavior, how they trade, and then over time this can add context that layers on top and creates a really bespoke experience for that user along their journey. The other option is embedded AI. So this is almost like the Apple play that's happening right now, where they embed models from other companies. So existing dominant interfaces, which that could be trading terminals, wallets, sexes, will just plug into the best system. So this would be like Banker on the back end, basically doing the execution and the reasoning, and then you'd have the dominant front end. So in this outcome, Def AI projects just become silent backend services, and then you have a third option, which I think we are seeing play out a little bit, which is modular orchestration. This is kind of like the virtuals ecosystem through Butler, where you have an aggregation platform that just coordinates tons of different agents that are specialized. So we'll route to different agents based on the request. Again, I see this playing out. To me, the most compelling opportunity, I think both from just kind of what I'm seeing potentially happen in the future, and then also from an investment perspective, would be the vertical integration. So I would say keep an eye out for companies like Surf AI and True North. I'm personally very bullish on them. I know both the founders are super, super smart, and they're just working on making like the best reasoning possible, getting the most context, and really serving a great user experience. So I think it's still really early to integrate a lot of the execution components of this. I think people don't trust AI yet with a ton of money, which makes a lot of sense. But I think for now they can integrate something like maybe they could do Hyperliquid builder codes on the background, right? So you're actually doing the execution, but you kind of have this co-pilot with you. Maybe that will change over time. So yeah, that's all I've got for you guys. I'm more than happy to open it up to questions, whatever you want to talk about.
Wow, that's super cool. Thanks so much. That's it's quite a mouthful, eh?
Yeah.
So yeah, I didn't even ask, and the hands are up already. So let's get going. So anybody wants to ask a question, please put your hand up. I know there's lots of people in the room here that are working on various elements of this. So it'll be fascinating to hear and how this relates to what you're doing and whether you feel like you're on the right track. So Lindsay, yeah, you go ahead and ask your question.
Okay, is it all right if I ask three? I've been digging really deep into this for the past couple of weeks. So,
The first one is I read about the Commerce Payments Protocol. Do you know if that is an active project? I've been trying to kind of figure that out. It was proposed by, I believe, Shopify and a couple other people. Let me find my notes on it. And it's Google's version of a agentic commerce standard for checkout, discovery, payment handling, those sort of things. And they partnered with Shopify, Etsy, Wayfair, Target, and more. Like, granted, those are more of like macro payment sorts of things, but have you done any looking into that and seeing if this might become a part of this economy, this agentic economy?
This is the Universal Commerce Protocol that recently came out.
Universal Commerce Protocol, correct? Yeah.
Yeah. So again, I think that the Universal Commerce Protocol is very simple, similar to ACP, which is the one that OpenAI and Stripe released, and it's really
Uh-huh.
focused on the B2C, basically buying things through Gemini. So
Mhm.
that kind of B2C commerce flow. Yeah.
Okay. So it is something that is still a player out there and actually happening. And then do you have any, I guess I really only have two questions. Do you have any insight into what people are actually purchasing with micropayments? You mentioned a lot about people doing like DeFi tasks with it, but are there people out there purchasing data? Are there people out there purchasing access to certain websites, research, that sort of thing?
Yeah, definitely. So I'll say I'm gonna show one of my friends at Artemis, Lucas Shin. He has done so much research into this recently, and he's absolutely incredible. He's trying to kind of parse out what's spoof transactions, what's not spoof transactions, and it seems like every week there's a lot of
Yeah.
deliberation about what's real and what's not real. But I think from what I can gather from him, some of the services that we've seen is like data scraping. I guess there's someone on Polygon right now who's getting a lot of traction for data scraping, LLM inference. So being able to hit a aggregator API where you can get like LLM inference from a specific model. I think some of that's
Okay.
going on. Yeah. There's really use. I would highly recommend going to the Artemis website. They can explain it much better.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Lindsay. Eric, you've been doing a lot
Hey,
in the space.
yeah, thanks, Robin. Hi, Chris. Thanks so much for presenting your work today. It's really, really fantastic report and great to see all the activity in agentic commerce. Um, I'm the co-founder and CEO of a company called Bloxy, and we're building the trust layer for agentic commerce, starting with document signing and data verification. And I noticed that you listed data verification as one of the core agentic services. And so I'm just curious, what other players are you seeing working on that? Specifically, enabling agents to sign terms and conditions or terms of service before they do those data transactions. And also to answer Lindsay's question, the last speaker we had on this call a month ago, I'm blanking on her name, Robin, if you can pull it up. She presented a very detailed report of all the X402 transactions from December. And she found that there were $7.5 million worth of transactions, but there were 63 million transactions at an average sales price of 12 cents. And they were mostly microdata transactions and API calls. Certainly they were looking at like what percentage of those were spoofed, and it looked like, probably 25% or less. I'm just trying to remember what I saw in the report. But I highly recommend it, Robin, if you can find it and drop a
It
link
was
to it.
Vicky of Blockrun, Vicky
Yes,
Fu.
yes, yes, yes,
There,
yes.
and there's a video of that call up on our YouTube channel. So
Yeah. Perfect, perfect. But anyway, but back to Chris for the question, just data verification. What are you seeing in the space?
Yeah, to be honest, I'm not super tapped into that specific vertical, so I think you would
Okay.
probably know more
Okay.
than I would know. But if I find anything, I can definitely let you know.
Okay. Are you seeing anything in terms of agents actually signing terms and conditions or making any types of agreements before they do their transfers or their exchanges?
Yeah, I know there's a couple out there. I think it's actually one of the most tapped X402 services does like
Mhm.
some sort of verification before the transaction actually goes through to make sure that like basically the data or whatever they're getting is valid.
Hmm.
I can find the name of that for you and send it over.
Yeah. I'd be curious. We certainly have our research on what we're seeing, but And then also specifically within just like agreements. So curious if there's anything there. But thank you. Really appreciate your insights.
Great, Eric. Thanks so much, man. Sarah?
Chris, thank you. Awesome presentation. I'm wondering, I see certainly all the enterprise applications. I'm wondering what you're seeing or anything you would point out around consumer, consumer applications, what kind of comes top of mind?
Is this specifically for crypto related or even?
Not crypto related. So we're building DearSarah.ai, which is much more built on top of an LLM, the opposite of Grok. We're, consumer facing. We're designed around the consumer. So just curious if there's anything you would point out.
Yeah, when it comes to agentic commerce, I think it's still really early right now. I mean, I think a lot of the things we're seeing right now is more of a consumer who's on an LLM and then decides to do the research there and then goes off from there, visits another website. And it's kind of like the guiding intent behind making the actual jump to the purchase. I think for doing this within LLMs and within these apps, it's still really, really early. I'm not exactly sure how much like volume has been processed with ChatGPT's integration of instant checkout. I'm not even sure if that's public. It's probably not, but I'm really, yeah, I'm not positive how much adoption there's been there, but I think it's going to start with the checkout through ChatGPT, checkout through Gemini, and then kind of trickle into other consumer apps. Yeah.
Thank you.
Great. Thanks so much, Sarah. Dele?
Yes, thank you. Hey, Chris, great presentation. Yeah, really great insights. And really interesting looking at all the different strands and stratas and different services. And I've been working a lot on that as well, from a crypto perspective at a network level. I mean, one of the key things that we do is we create these composable intelligence units that allow you to basically compose data, intelligence, services, workflows, etc., all into units that you can build. And the more I go through this and the further I go up the stack and further I get to the closer I get to the consumer interaction, it seems to me that like the whole user interface that we have right now is not really fit for purpose. It's not fit for an agentic internet. And you can see that, browsers, apps as we have them today, everybody sort of, there's a lot of bolting in, but none of that really is really effective or is really can deliver that kind of magic that agentic that the agentic internet overall can do. So I'm curious to see what you've seen in the sort of agentic experience layer, in that whole sort of user interface layer, because that seems to be the ultimate battleground. Whoever can actually win the interface that will basically own the space around how you interact with various agents, whether they're orchestrated, whether they're vertically integrated. I mean, you can see there's going to be multiple services out there. So yeah, I'm just curious to see if you've seen anything happening in that space, in this sort of agentic experience space, that's really working from a foundational principles perspective in terms of how we interact with the agentic internet.
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, I think I would go back to most consumers. I would assume like 90 to 95% of people who are using AI right now are probably just using it through like a standard front end of like, either Claude or ChatGPT or Gemini, and that's how they're experiencing agents. And they don't know what's going on in the background, right? They're just experiencing that way. So I'm not sure. I know, within, I guess, the intersection of crypto and AI, like I know that Questflow has some like an interesting front end where you can coordinate different agents into like little groups and kind of have like multi-agent orchestration through that. But I mean that's a good question. I'm not really sure. I think that if you're it's like kind of if you're super deep in the space, you might be doing your own bespoke stuff on your local laptop or like a Mac Mini. And then if you're on the other side of the space, you're probably just using ChatGPT or like some sort of like very common LLM interface. So I'm not really sure too much about in the middle there. Yeah.
Yeah, because it's really fragmented, isn't it? It's like like you say, you'll do something on ChatGPT, then you'll go into Google or you'll go to a commerce site, and that's obviously not the way that this is going to emerge longer term. It's going to be a seamless experience. So yeah, no, it seems like there's not a lot of thought going into that as yet.
Yeah, total. No, okay, I kind of get what you're saying. Yeah, I mean, I think so. This is my vision of it, and who knows how it's going to play out, right? Like, it's hard to even week to week say what's going to happen in AI, but I think that right now, the intent is coming from the user a lot. So I go onto ChatGPT and I am browsing or whatever, and maybe I have an intent to buy something, and I'm looking for a recommendation from ChatGPT, and then I go and buy it. I think eventually what we're going to get to, and I think we're kind of starting to see the beginning of, I guess, the idea, the consumer behavior with like OpenClaw and some of the things that people have been using it for. It's going to be more so the agent's going to know you so well and have so much context about you that it will eventually prompt you to buy things as well. Like, hey, I saw that, you're going out for the weekend. Do you want me to like cancel the groceries, or do you want me to pick up groceries on Monday for you? Do you want me to order DoorDash on Thursday? I see you're having a late night. You're working late. And honestly, even with, you might eventually, it's probably going to be on your phone, right? So you'll be carrying around where you walk, like, hey, there's your favorite coffee shops coming up in 2 miles. Do you want me to place a coffee order for you ahead of time?
Right.
So I think it's the way that agentic commerce is going to happen, is probably over time going to lean more towards us being prompt versus us prompting the model. And I don't know how long that's going to take, but that's just kind of the vision that I see coming out. I think that that's where like really the incremental spend comes from, because some of the fintech people I've talked about are like, okay, is this really going to move the needle, right? Like, is there going to be incremental spend that actually comes from this, or are people just going to have intent to buy something and they're going to buy it? I think the incremental spend is going to come through like very personal, context aware AI agents who can then recommend things to you. And then you as a consumer will be spending a little bit more than you would have normally spent.
Yeah, I completely agree. You're spot on.
Thank you. Great. Yeah, and I actually want to call, if he's on the call, Daniel of Swarm, because I know they've been doing some amazing work in terms of decentralization, peer-to-peer storage, and content delivery, censorship resistance, and been in the game a long time. And Daniel, I just wondered if you had any thoughts or realizations as a result of the call and the chat from Chris.
Yeah, this was an amazing presentation, and thank you for that, Chris. Really thorough, and actually I had a lot of thoughts while I was watching your presentation. Actually, the latest chat that you just had reminded me of how and why Swarm was actually invented and conceptualized, which is essentially letting people to practice sovereign control over their data. And what you were just recently discussing is basically advertising coming directly into these LLMs, and even more advertising coming into our discussions with these LLMs. And what I was trying to think about, whether or how can the users can protect their privacy, and would it be what these agents, or what these agents would be tapping into is actually the context, the history of all the user interactions, and based on that would be probably guessing what the user is up for, not necessarily the recent intent, but more like all the history, the things that Google has knows everything about us, because it knows all the history of our browsing and all the context. So, do you see any? And that's more the question. Like, would you see any developments towards a future where users would be more conscious about where they store their context and how they let the LLMs and the agents tap into that context? Would they believe that that's sort of their privacy, and they would be better trying to protect that?
So I think that people in theory care a lot about privacy, but the revealed behavior is people would rather have context and personalization for them. So I'm sure there will be, a select subset of people who really do care about privacy and maybe, don't want to enable all of these features where it can tap into your entire life. But I think over time, people will see the value and the convenience of linking all of these things to a lot of your personal data, and that will probably be where a lot of people take it. Not sure. I mean, I think probably the subset of people here is much more concerned about like data privacy and ownership than 99.9% of the population. So
Yep.
I'm sure that, yeah, like there will be a group that maybe is just like, I'm running locally, right? Like I'm not trusting anything to like these, major model companies, and I'm turning off all the, sort of like memory context stuff. But I do see, yeah, again, like long term, like what you were saying, right? Like Google has context for everything in your life, right? And they can create such a compelling, like unique, tailored experience, and then that does translate into the advertising side, like what you were saying, being able to push products to you that you might actually enjoy. Um, yeah, I hope that clears it up a little bit.
Thanks.
Thank you, Daniel. Yeah, and thanks for what you're doing in the space. You Swarm guys have been around a long time, and yeah, privacy is super important. And then I just wanted to ask Alan, who's my co-host, because Alan's busy building Agent Mondi for Crypto Mondays, and I wondered whether there was any insights and thoughts that you had as a result of the talk, Alan.
There were,
We catch him out here, whether he's concentrating or not. Eh?
yeah, I was trying to concentrate on all the different topics, but there was just so much covered. One of the things that in the differentiation and the actual definition of what an agent is, I found very interesting, because one of the things that was mentioned was an example of trading based on triggers, and some of that can be done without, just programmatically. It doesn't really need an agent to do those kind of things.
Sure.
So that kind of makes me wonder, are there superfluous things being used in agents that really don't need to be in there? Are you seeing people trying to force things into agents to get them to do, instead of just doing things more simply? Are we getting too complicated in that world?
I mean, I think you're absolutely right. And I think Anthropic has like the Bible kind of on understanding this. It's like a document of basically separating workflows from agents, and when an agent is necessary to use when versus when a workflow is fine to use. And obviously, like what you're saying with like literally the programmatic automations, like we've had that forever, right? Like when the RSI dips below 30, like purchase Ethereum or something, right? But I think it's, yeah, thinking about like why would you need an agent versus when would a workflow suffice is an important thing for people to think about. Um, an agent you would, generally need if it's like a multi-step, like you don't know how many iterations or like exactly how it's going to play out, how much like thinking time it needs, or like resources that you need to tap into. A workflow is a little bit more constrained. I mean, there's a lot of different ways that workflows can be piped. But I mean, I think, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think people are going to build. People are probably going to overbuild. People, are going to toss a ton of stuff in there that might not be necessary, and then kind of pare it down over time. Um, I'm
Yeah.
not a builder in this space, so I can't comment too much. There's probably a lot more qualified people here to comment on that. But yeah, I'm sure we'll
Sure.
see people toss everything but the kitchen sink in it.
Yeah, I
Cool.
mean, along those lines, is there anything that you've seen recently that you just went, wow, in terms of agent functionality?
Um, Specifically with crypto AI, nothing like really comes to mind. I mean, I think that like OpenClaw was a big unlock for a lot of people. I think that was one of the first times that people really understood like context and how giving an agent context, giving it like a memory file to write to and like understand you, and cron jobs to be able to like automatically come back to you with information that you want. I think that was a big unlock for people in their understanding of it, and we can argue the actual how different is this from, the agents that we already have? Like how much of an unlock actually is this? I think there's a little bit of overhype happening right now, but I think this is one of the coolest experiences that I've seen with really getting agents to click for people. And yeah, I run mine. I find it very interesting, and I've been thinking about what workflows can I put into my life, what agentic like different cron jobs and stuff can I use to make my life simpler or more efficient. So yeah, not sure on the crypto AI side. I would have to come back to you on that.
Okay. No, thank you very much. It was a great presentation.
Thank you.
Yeah, awesome, Chris. Thank you. Have you got 2 minutes left, Chris, or you got to run?
No, I'm good. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Because I just wondered, I don't know if John Sarson, you listening, but what were your thoughts on it in terms of being a VC in the space and having listened to the talk? You jumped.
Sorry, guys. I think my video is being used by another window. I mean, yeah, we're continuing
Cool.
to look at
We
the.
can hear you. That's perfect.
Can you hear me okay, though? Yep.
Perfect.
Yeah, we're continuing to be focused on agentic blockchain solutions, cross-chain payment solutions, anything related to on-chain training, and on-chain ID. We're interested in finding early stage token projects that be utility tokens have utility tokens that are working on their relative projects. We think there's a lot of disruption that can happen, and a lot of Web3 solutions that'll need to be used by agents, especially since agents aren't going to be able to go through KYC processes. So anything that delivers a business line that an agent might want to do that's going to be optimized for agent to agent transactions or agent to people transactions or people to agent transactions. We like those blockchain businesses a lot.
Happy to throw some money at them. Good stuff. Thanks, John. And one last final, George. I see George Fernandez is on the call, and he's been building Agent Monday with us. And I wondered, George, if you had any thoughts about what's going on, what Chris is proposing.
Hi, everybody. Charlotte, great presentation. I enjoyed very much. So I've been following essentially, and I think you nailed it, the top hot protocols that are running now. So these new with OCP and the authentication processes, I think it's changing e-commerce, not only in blockchain but other areas. And let's see what's going on with those autonomous agents very carefully, very carefully, because if you use only LLMs, you got the hallucination problems and you got the probabilistic error rate. I think you're gonna have final solution will combine these like LLMs with more classic AI, like planning, restriction, case-based reasoning, and I believe revision to make sure that you got some guardrails on the outcome of these LLMs response. But I think this is the path. We are just in early stages of these agents, but very great presentation. It's good to have this like an overview of the current stage of the art stage.
Yeah. And to
Thank you,
that,
George.
I completely agree. I think that we're so early in this, and I think that some of the things that you mentioned are what's hindering enterprise adoption a little bit right now, kind of at the bigger companies, is data governance, right? Like hallucinations, being reliable, prompt injections, like a lot of this stuff we still need to work through. So I think it's the type of thing that we might overestimate what will happen in 6 months, a year, and completely underestimate within 5 years to 10 years.
Yeah. Great. Well, thank you very, very much to everybody. That was a fascinating and very stimulating and festive discussion. So, Chris, thanks so much for giving us your time and your insights. Yeah.
I'll toss my Twitter handle in the chat. If anyone wants to talk, I'm more than happy to.
That'd be great. Thank you. Sorry, William, I think we better call it now. We've been going for an hour. And so thanks very much to everybody, and I wish you all the best and lots of excitement and successes in the space. Wishing you all a fabulous rest of the day. Ciao.
Thanks,
Thank you so
guys.
much.
Okay.